I still feel the burn of everyone's eyes on me as I stood frozen in the middle of our open office. Coffee dripped from Sabrina's pristine white Chanel blouse, spreading an ugly brown stain across the expensive fabric. Her scream pierced the silence, making heads snap up from computer screens. The office went so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming overhead. "You clumsy, pathetic excuse for an employee," she shouted, her face twisted with rage. "This blouse costs more than you make in a week. Do you have any idea what you've done?" My hands trembled as I tried to offer her napkins. The coffee cup rolled across the floor, leaving a trail of dark liquid on the light gray carpet. 20 pairs of eyes watched the scene unfold like a car crash in slow motion. "I'm so sorry, it was an accident." My voice sounded small, even to my own ears. "An accident?" Sabrina cut me off, her voice dripping with venom. "Like your entire career here? Like the Hartwell presentation you butchered last month? This is the final straw, Meryl." Our HR director, Dana, stood nearby, arms crossed, watching silently as Sabrina delivered the final blow. "You're fired. Pack your things and be out in 30 minutes. I want your key card on my desk." The office went deadly quiet. My team members' faces showed shock and horror as I walked to my desk, legs wobbly. 11 years at Parker Media wiped away because of spilled coffee. 11 years of dedication, late nights, and successful campaigns, gone in an instant. As I packed my personal items into a cardboard box, my family photos, my plant, the award I'd won last year, I caught Sabrina's smug smile from across the room. She stood in her office doorway, arms crossed, watching me like a predator savoring its kill. That's when something inside me hardened. "She'll regret this," I whispered, just loud enough for my closest coworker to hear. 3 months before the coffee incident, I was waiting in the lobby to welcome our new creative director. Everyone buzzed with excitement. Parker Media had poached a rising star from a competitor. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, and my heart skipped a beat. Sabrina Chen stepped out, looking polished in a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Meryl Matthews," she squealed, arms outstretched, designer bracelets jingling. "It's been forever. Look at you." My stomach tightened. We had attended the same marketing program years ago. Back then, she was just another student struggling to keep up with assignments, always borrowing my notes before exams. Now she was my new boss. How had that happened? Her hug felt stiff, her expensive perfume almost choking me, but her smile dazzled as she introduced herself to the gathering employees. Her voice carried across the marble lobby, commanding attention without effort. "Meryl and I go way back," she announced, one arm draped around my shoulders. "I'm so excited to work with such a talented old friend. We're going to create magic together." Everyone clapped. My team looked impressed. Their usually quiet manager knew the glamorous new executive. If only they knew the truth about our past friendship. The moment I turned to lead her to the conference room, her smile vanished like a switch had been flipped. I caught her reflection in the glass doors, cold eyes, tight lips, a completely different person. She leaned close as we walked down the hallway, her breath hot against my ear. "This time," she whispered so only I could hear, "I'll win." I pretended not to understand, but my skin prickled with warning. That night, I stayed late to finish a campaign file for our biggest client, a comprehensive strategy I'd spent weeks perfecting. The next morning, I discovered it had been deleted from the shared drive. The system log showed only one other user had accessed it after midnight, Sabrina Chen. 1 week later, I presented my strategy for the Hartwell account during our team meeting. I'd spent days perfecting the approach, analyzing market trends, studying competitor weaknesses, and crafting a fresh take on their brand story that could revolutionize their market position. The conference room was packed. This was Hartwell's 3rd year with us, and they were expecting something revolutionary. "So to summarize," I said, clicking to my final slide, "this approach positions Hartwell not just as a service provider, but as an industry thought leader, with content strategies targeting 3 key demographics we've identified." I looked up, expecting questions. Instead, Sabrina tilted her head and let out a small laugh that seemed to suck all the oxygen from the room. The sound made my skin crawl. "That's cute, Meryl, but let's get real." She stood up, taking control of the room. Her red-soled heels clicked against the hardwood floor as she walked to the front. Hartwell needs something dynamic, not these. She waved her hand dismissively. Elementary ideas. This reads like a first-year marketing student's homework. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. My face burned as colleagues averted their eyes, suddenly fascinated by their notepads or phones. Ethan, our digital strategist, frowned deeply but stayed silent. I saw his knuckles whiten as he gripped his pen. "Let's move on," Sabrina continued, her voice dripping with false enthusiasm. "I have some concepts I'd like to explore instead, something with actual potential." I sat through the rest of the meeting in humiliated silence, my carefully prepared notes crumpled in my fist under the table. The strategy I'd developed through countless late nights had been dismissed in seconds. 2 days later, the entire office received an email from Sabrina to the board. My stomach dropped as I read it, disbelief turning to rage. There, laid out in perfect detail, was my exact Hartwell strategy, presented as Sabrina's breakthrough idea. She'd stolen everything: the 3-tier approach, the content calendar, even my specific phrase about elevating Hartwell from service provider to thought leader. The board's response came quickly. "Brilliant approach, Sabrina. This is exactly the fresh thinking we hired you for. Let's fast-track implementation." My hands shook with anger as I closed the email. She hadn't changed a single word. Not one. And now she would get all the credit for my work. I arrived early Monday morning to find my nameplate removed from the Paragon Hotel's project room. The door where Merrill Matthews, lead strategist, had been displayed now had a blank space, as if I'd never existed. My heart sank. For 6 months, I'd built their campaign from scratch, spending weekends researching their competitors and crafting a unique positioning statement. The client loved my work. Just last week, their CEO had personally thanked me for revitalizing their brand identity. When I asked our project coordinator what happened, she avoided my eyes, suddenly very interested in organizing papers. Her face flushed with embarrassment. "Sabrina reassigned the account last night," she mumbled. "Said the client wanted someone more dynamic. I'm sorry, Merrill. I thought you knew." My coffee went cold in my hand as I processed her words. I walked briskly to the conference room, where I found Sabrina in my usual seat, spreading my materials across the table. My research binders, my customer journey maps, my handwritten notes, all laid out as if they were hers. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady though my pulse hammered in my ears. "Paragon was my account. I've been working with them for 6 months." She barely glanced up, perfectly manicured nails sorting through pages I had created. "Was" is the keyword, Merrill. They needed a fresh perspective. Her smile didn't reach her eyes, which remained cold and calculating. "You understand. Sometimes we need to shake things up." I stood there, stunned into silence. The room seemed to tilt slightly as I realized what was happening. A systematic erasure of my contributions, one project at a time. That afternoon, the presentation deck I'd created was circulated for final review. My stomach turned as I scrolled through it. My name had been erased from every slide, every footnote, every acknowledgement. The custom graphics I'd designed now had Sabrina's color scheme. The title page now read in bold letters, "Paragon Hotels Rebrand Strategy by Sabrina Chen." I downloaded a copy, then printed it and locked it in my desk drawer, along with my original drafts. Something told me I might need proof later. This wasn't just petty office politics anymore. This was theft of intellectual property. When Ethan passed my desk later, he paused, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. "This isn't right, Merrill," he whispered, his expression dark. "Everyone knows that was your work. The entire team saw you building that campaign for months." I started noticing a pattern with meeting invites. Somehow, critical client meetings were being scheduled during my pre-approved time off. The calendar notifications would appear with urgent flags. "Required attendance" stamped across the top. The first time, I thought it was an oversight. A simple scheduling error. "Sorry, Sabrina, but I have that doctor's appointment on Thursday that was approved months ago," I mentioned after a team huddle, showing her the time-off request form with HR's signature. She glanced at it, then frowned, tapping her tablet with perfectly manicured nails. Her expression shifted to practiced concern. "Oh, did I schedule over that?" "My mistake." She paused, then shrugged. "Well, this client meeting is non-negotiable." Thompson and Partners are bringing their entire executive team. You'll need to reschedule your appointment." I did, reluctantly, paying the cancellation fee and waiting 3 more weeks to see the specialist. Then it happened again with my dental surgery, and again with my brother's wedding anniversary dinner. The 4th time, I couldn't change my plans. My daughter Emma's high school graduation ceremony was absolutely non-negotiable. I'd requested the day off 6 months in advance. I explained this to Sabrina twice, even showing her Emma's graduation invitation. "Family comes first," I told her firmly. When I missed the meeting, an email from HR arrived the next morning. Formal write-up for absence during critical client engagement. Attached was a document for my personnel file, citing pattern of unavailability and lack of commitment. That afternoon, I noticed my teammates exchanging worried glances in the break room. Lisa, who'd worked with me for 7 years, filled her coffee cup beside Alex, our newest designer. "Why is she being treated like an intern?" I overheard Lisa ask while stirring cream into her coffee. "Meryl's been here longer than almost anyone. She practically built the creative department." "Haven't you noticed?" Alex replied quietly, glancing around to make sure Sabrina wasn't nearby. It started the day Sabrina arrived. My friend at Greenfield Associates said something similar happened there. Someone gets targeted, then pushed out. I pretended not to hear, busying myself with the coffee machine, but their words settled like a weight on my chest. They saw it too. This wasn't my imagination. The boardroom was packed with executives for our quarterly preview. Men and women in expensive suits filled the long table, chatting quietly as they reviewed the glossy presentation folders I'd spent all weekend preparing. As senior marketing strategist, I'd created comprehensive campaign forecasts for the coming months, analyzing trends and projecting ROIs that would make our shareholders very happy. The CEO nodded at me with a smile as I set up my laptop. Board members checked their watches. We were right on schedule. Just as I opened my presentation folder and prepared to speak, Sabrina touched my arm, her fingernails digging in slightly. "Before we start," she said loudly, her voice carrying across the room, "Meryl, would you mind getting coffee for everyone? You know how everyone likes it, right? Mr. Rat Thompson takes his black, Miss Winters needs her soy milk." She smiled sweetly. "You're such a wonderful assistant." The room went quiet. Confused glances passed between board members. I wasn't an assistant. I had never been an assistant. I had a team of 12 people reporting to me. For 11 years, I'd built my reputation at this company, working my way up from entry-level copywriter to senior marketing strategist. My campaigns had won industry awards. I'd brought in our 3 biggest clients. Now, in front of everyone who mattered, the CEO, the board, department heads, she'd reduced me to a coffee girl. I felt my jaw tighten and my face grow hot. I could correct her, make a scene, but that would only make things awkward for everyone. Somehow, I forced a smile. "Of course," I managed, my voice barely steady, happy to help. As I left, I caught Ethan's expression from across the table, jaw clenched, eyes blazing with quiet anger. He knew exactly what Sabrina was doing. This wasn't a mistake or oversight, it was calculated humiliation. In the kitchen, my hands shook as I arranged coffee cups on a tray. I spilled hot water on my wrist but barely felt the burn. Hot tears threatened, but I blinked them away rapidly. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of red eyes when I returned. "Not here," I whispered to myself, gripping the edge of the counter until my knuckles turned white. "Not now. Keep it together, Meryl." Ethan Kelly had joined Parker Media 2 years ago, quickly becoming our most valued digital strategist. Tall with kind brown eyes and a quiet intelligence, he had transformed our social media offerings with innovative approaches that secured 3 major tech clients. His talent was undeniable, and the board clearly saw him as a rising star. His name appeared on the high-potential list that had leaked from HR last month. Which is exactly why Sabrina set her sights on him. I watched from my desk as she perched on the edge of his, her skirt hiking up slightly as she leaned over his computer screen. She laughed too loudly at something he said. A theatrical, head-thrown-back laugh that made heads turn across the open office. Her perfectly manicured hand rested on his shoulder a beat too long, fingers trailing slightly as she finally removed it. "The client absolutely loved your social strategy," she gushed, voice pitched just loud enough for nearby desks to hear. Those engagement metrics were extraordinary. We should discuss your approach over drinks tonight. I know this perfect little speakeasy downtown. Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his chair, putting subtle distance between them. His expression remained professionally pleasant, but I recognized his discomfort in the way he straightened papers on his desk, a nervous habit I'd noticed in client meetings. Thanks, but I've got deadlines for the Macmillan project, he replied, eyes fixed on his monitor. Maybe another time. Later that afternoon, he stopped by my desk with a question about campaign analytics. After discussing work, he lowered his voice. Is it just me, or is Sabrina extremely obvious? I finished for him, raising an eyebrow. Yes, everyone's noticed. We both laughed, the sound genuine and unexpected. It was the first real laugh I'd had in weeks, a momentary break in the cloud of anxiety that had followed me since Sabrina's arrival. Watch yourself, I warned him, sobering. Stay professional. Document everything, every email, every request. Trust me on this. He nodded seriously, his expression telling me he understood the gravity of my warning. I always do. I learned that lesson early in my career. From across the office, Sabrina watched us through the glass wall of her office. Our laughter died as we noticed her expression, dark, furious, her lips pressed into a thin line. She turned sharply and walked away, fists clenched at her sides. That's not good, Ethan muttered, straightening up. I know that look. I felt a chill run down my spine. No, it's not. Be careful, Ethan. You're on her radar now. The budget cut started small, almost imperceptible. First, my request for an additional designer was denied, despite our team's increased workload. Then my travel to the Chicago client meeting was deemed unnecessary, even though I had established the relationship with that client 3 years ago. We need to be cost-conscious in today's market, Sabrina explained sweetly during our team meeting, not quite meeting my eyes as she reviewed the amended departmental budget. She clicked through slides of pie charts and bar graphs that somehow never quite added up. Everyone needs to tighten their belts. But when the quarterly budget was finally shared company-wide, I discovered my entire department's resources had been slashed by 40%. Nearly half our operating funds. The color-coded spreadsheet showed dramatic red decreases across every project I managed. Meanwhile, Sabrina's pet projects had received increased funding, her initiatives glowing green with generous plus signs. This must be a mistake, I told my team, trying to keep the panic from my voice. We had deliverables due for 5 major clients within the month. I'll talk to finance. But finance confirmed the numbers were correct and approved by upper management, meaning Sabrina. I started staying late every night, sometimes until 2 a.m., trying to deliver the same quality with fewer resources. Stretching every dollar, calling in personal favors from vendors, doing design work myself instead of outsourcing it. My team members, seeing my struggle, offered to help, working unpaid overtime alongside me, ordering cheap takeout and spreading files across the conference room floor. This isn't right, Lisa whispered as we huddled around the table, ordering dinner to the office for the 3rd night that week. Her voice was low, eyes darting toward Sabrina's empty office. She's setting you up to fail. No one could deliver these campaigns with the budget she's left us. At midnight, as I was finally packing up to head home, an email notification lit up my phone. It was a chain Sabrina had accidentally included me on, discussing resource allocation with the finance team. My hands shook as I scrolled through the messages from earlier that afternoon. Redirect another 15% from Merrill's projects to the Newman campaign, she'd written to the financial controller. If her team can't deliver on their commitments with the adjusted resources, we'll have cause for restructuring the department completely. The pattern was clear now. This wasn't just sabotage, it was elimination. A systematic dismantling of my position, designed to make me fail so spectacularly that firing me would seem justified. I don't know whose instructions to follow anymore, complained Alex during our Monday huddle, dark circles under his eyes as he flipped through conflicting briefs. His normally neat desk was cluttered with coffee cups and crumpled sketches. Sabrina tells me one thing in the morning, then Merrill needs something completely different by afternoon based on what the client actually asked for. I'm drowning here. The tension in our department had reached a breaking point. What was once our most cohesive team now felt fractured and confused. Projects were stalling, deadlines slipping. Team members looked exhausted, their faces drawn and pale under the fluorescent lights, caught between loyalty to me and fear of Sabrina's power to fire them. "We can't function like this," Lisa agreed, running her fingers through her hair in frustration. She'd been with me the longest. 8 years of flawless collaboration now reduced to daily confusion. Yesterday, I had to redo the same graphic 3 times because directions kept changing. First, Sabrina wanted blue, then green, then back to the original blue, but with different fonts. I'm working until midnight every night. I felt physically sick as I looked around at my team, people I'd hired, trained, and mentored. Despite my best efforts to shield them, they were suffering. The monthly productivity reports that had arrived that morning showed our department falling behind for the first time in years. The bar graphs told a stark story. Projects delayed, costs rising, client satisfaction metrics dropping. "I'm sorry, everyone," I said quietly. "I know this is difficult. I'm trying to create some stability." But even as I spoke, my computer pinged with a calendar invite. Sabrina had scheduled a performance review for Friday, 2 months ahead of my regular evaluation cycle, which had always been exemplary. My stomach tightened as I read the meeting description. The subject line read, "Discussing recent challenges and department performance failures." As soon as the team dispersed, I forwarded the invite to my personal email and took a raw screenshot of the entire thing, including the timestamp. Then I opened a new document on my personal laptop titled Timeline of September. I was working late when raised voices drew my attention to Sabrina's office. Through the glass walls, I could see Ethan standing rigidly, while Sabrina leaned back in her chair. Though I couldn't hear their words, Ethan's body language spoke volumes, pointing at documents, then gesturing toward my empty desk. He was confronting her about me. The next morning, Ethan stopped by my cubicle. "I tried," he said quietly. "I told her what she's doing is unprofessional and damaging to the company." "What did she say?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "She claimed you're not handling pressure well. Said your performance issues started before she arrived." His expression darkened. "It's complete garbage, Meryl." That afternoon, I noticed Sabrina typing furiously in her office. Using my admin access, I checked the shared HR drive. A new document had appeared in my personnel folder. Performance concerns, Meryl Matthews. The first line chilled me. Exhibits signs of instability under stress, resistant to change and new leadership. She was building a paper trail to justify whatever came next. The annual client gala was Parker Media's biggest event, a chance to showcase our best work and mingle with industry leaders. For 5 years, I'd organized and hosted it to rave reviews. So when Sabrina called me into her office, her smile should have warned me. "Meryl, I need your special touch for the gala," she began sweetly. "You're so good with details." My heart lifted momentarily until she continued. "I'll need you to handle logistics this year. Table arrangements, name tags, coordination with catering, the basics." I blinked, processing. "But I usually present our marketing strategy showcase." "Oh, I'll handle that part," she said, waving dismissively. "We need your organizational skills behind the scenes." The night of the gala, I worked tirelessly in the background, checking tables, directing waitstaff, solving last-minute crises. Meanwhile, Sabrina shone on stage, presenting campaigns my team had created. When our CEO approached me later, he smiled kindly. "Wonderful event, as always. Sabrina has really elevated the presentation this year, hasn't she?" I forced a smile, swallowing my pride. "Yes, she certainly has." The Monday morning client pitch was crucial, our biggest potential account of the year. I arrived early, reviewing my presentation one last time. Sabrina breezed in, all smiles. "Perfect timing. The executives are here early. Can you grab coffee for everyone? Make mine a double espresso." I hesitated. This seemed familiar, too familiar. I should prepare for my segment. "We're on a tight schedule," she interrupted. "Coffee first, then your presentation." Reluctantly, I headed to the kitchen. Minutes later, I balanced a tray of coffee cups, navigating the narrow hallway toward the conference room. As I rounded the corner, Sabrina suddenly appeared, stepping directly into my path. I tried to sidestep, but there was nowhere to go. The collision was inevitable. Coffee splashed everywhere, mostly onto her pristine white blouse. Her scream seemed almost rehearsed. "You clumsy idiot, look what you've done." From down the hall, I noticed one of our senior account managers watching intently. Her eyes narrowed as she observed Sabrina's performance. The trap had been set, and I had walked right into it. "You're fired. Pack your things and be out in 30 minutes. Sabrina's words echoed through the silent office. I stood frozen, coffee staining my own shirt, the empty tray still in my hands. No investigation, no discussion, 11 years erased in a single moment. I walked to my desk with as much dignity as I could muster, feeling dozens of eyes following me. As I packed my plants, photos, and personal items into a cardboard box, the reality sank in. This was really happening. Sabrina watched from her office, arms crossed, triumph written across her face. She had orchestrated this perfectly. The public humiliation, the final dismissal. The Queen had removed her rival. I took one last look around, at the team I'd built, the space I'd called home for over a decade. Then I picked up my box and walked toward the elevator. Behind me, I heard chairs scraping. Footsteps followed. I turned to see 6 team members, Lisa, Alex, and 4 others, standing up, grabbing their bags. Lisa approached. "If you're leaving, so am I." One by one, they followed me to the elevator. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "You're not done here, trust me." Just 2 weeks after my termination, the cracks in Sabrina's facade began to show. Lisa, who had quit in solidarity, kept me updated through daily texts. Total disaster today. Hartwell meeting went sideways when Sabrina couldn't answer basic questions about their campaign history. Alex would have handled the crisis, but he's gone. 3 deadlines missed this week. The Davidson account is threatening to leave. Sabrina blamed the team transition, but they're not buying it. Without me and the others who had left, the carefully balanced system I'd built began to collapse. Sabrina didn't know the clients personally. She didn't understand the intricate workflows we'd developed over years. The final blow came when creative director Marcus stormed into the CEO's office. "Either Meryl comes back, or I walk," he declared. "This department is imploding, and we all know why." His ultimatum sent shockwaves through the company. Marcus had been with Parker Media for 15 years, longer than anyone. His threat couldn't be ignored. Meanwhile, I sat in my apartment, updating my resume and ignoring calls from recruiters. Something told me to wait. "Something doesn't add up about Sabrina," Ethan said during our coffee meeting, our first contact since my firing. "Her stories keep changing." He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes. "She claimed she led the Westfield campaign at her last job, but when I mentioned specific details, she changed the subject." I sipped my latte, considering his words. "That doesn't prove anything." "No, but this might." He slid his phone across the table. On the screen was Sabrina's LinkedIn profile, next to her company bio. The discrepancies were subtle but unmistakable. Dates that didn't align, job titles that sounded similar but weren't identical. Why would she lie about these things? I wondered aloud. "That's what I'm trying to figure out," Ethan replied. "Give me time. Everyone's asking about you, by the way. The place isn't the same." As we parted ways, he squeezed my shoulder. "Don't give up, Meryl. I think there's more to this story than anyone knows." That night, I dreamed of walking back into the office, head held high. In the dream, Sabrina's smile crumbled as she saw me. I woke up with a strange sense of anticipation. Ethan worked methodically, careful to leave no digital footprints. His friend in legal, Jamie, helped access Sabrina's hiring documents, all completely above board, just a routine audit. "Look at this," Jamie whispered, pointing to discrepancies in the application. "Her resume says she was marketing director at Greenfield Associates for 3 years, but her reference letter is only signed by an HR coordinator, not her supposed direct manager." Ethan dug deeper. Sabrina's resume claimed a master's degree from Stanford, but the dates overlapped with her supposed employment at a firm in New York. Physically impossible. Most damning of all, her actual experience wasn't in strategy or creative direction. It was primarily administrative assistant roles, rebranded with impressive-sounding titles. "She's a complete fraud," Jamie concluded. The question remained, how had she gotten past HR's screening? The answer came when they checked her personal references. One name stood out, board member Victor Chen, Sabrina's uncle. The next morning, Ethan requested a meeting with the entire board. "I have information critical to the company's integrity," his email stated. "And a question. Why did we lose our best strategist to protect a fraud? The emergency board meeting lasted 3 hours. Ethan presented his evidence methodically: falsified credentials, manufactured experience, nepotism in hiring. When confronted with specific campaign questions, she deflects, he explained, because she's never actually led these initiatives. The board members exchanged troubled glances. CEO Richard Thompson looked particularly grim. "This explains the client complaints," he said quietly. "We've lost 2 major accounts this month." Victor Chen sat silent, his face ashen. When directly questioned about fast-tracking his niece's application, he finally admitted the truth. "She needed a chance. I never thought it would go this far." HR launched a full investigation, confirming Ethan's findings within days. Sabrina's degree was uncompleted. Her references couldn't verify her supposed leadership roles. Her portfolio contained work she hadn't created. The board's decision was unanimous. Sabrina would be removed immediately. As the meeting concluded, Board Chair Eleanor Freeman made one final statement: "We need Meryl back, now." No one disagreed. I was deadheading roses in my small garden when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Meryl Matthews speaking." "Meryl, this is Eleanor Freeman." The board chair's voice was unmistakable. "We need to talk." My heart pounded as she explained what they'd discovered. Sabrina's fraud, the nepotism, the deliberate sabotage of my position. The company wanted me back. "We made a terrible mistake," Eleanor admitted, "but we'd like to make it right." I remained silent, pulling off my gardening gloves. After a moment, I finally spoke. "Why should I return to a company that discarded me so easily?" Eleanor's response was immediate. "Because we're offering a public apology, the vice president of strategy position, complete autonomy over your department, and triple your previous salary." I nearly dropped the phone. "And," she continued, "the 6 team members who left with you will be offered their positions back with substantial raises. We value loyalty, Meryl, especially now that we've seen the cost of its absence." I looked at my half-pruned roses, thinking of the team that had stood by me. They deserved better. We all did. "I'll accept," I said finally, "but I want everything in writing by tomorrow." The elevator doors opened to the familiar sight of Parker Media's lobby. I stepped out wearing a new red blazer, confidence in every step. The whispers started immediately. Heads turned. Then someone, I think it was Marcus, began to clap. Others joined in until applause filled the entire floor. My team members rushed forward, surrounding me with hugs and relieved laughter. Many had tears in their eyes. Lisa couldn't stop grinning. "The reign of terror is over," she whispered. From the corner of my eye, I spotted Sabrina standing near the wall, clutching a clipboard. Her designer outfit was gone, replaced by a simple blouse and pencil skirt. Her expression was a mixture of shock and defeat. As the celebration continued around me, CEO Richard approached with an outstretched hand. "Welcome home, Vice President Matthews," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Your office is ready." I accepted his handshake, noting how he couldn't quite meet my eyes. He knew how badly the company had failed me. As I walked toward my new corner office, Sabrina's former space, I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and peace. The view from the top would be sweet, but sweeter still was the loyalty that had brought me back here. Sabrina sat rigidly in the conference room as HR Director Dana explained her options. "Given the circumstances of your hiring and subsequent performance," Dana said carefully, "the board has decided to offer you 2 choices." I watched through the glass wall, not taking any pleasure in Sabrina's distress, but needing to witness this resolution. Option 1, resignation, effective immediately, with a standard reference confirming only your dates of employment. Sabrina's chin lifted defiantly. Option 2, Dana continued, reassignment to an administrative assistant position in the records department. Your salary would be adjusted accordingly, and the demotion would be permanent and documented. The color drained from Sabrina's face. For someone who had lied her way to the top, either option meant career devastation. Resignation would raise questions in future interviews. Demotion would mean daily humiliation. After a long silence, Sabrina's voice came out barely above a whisper. "I'll take the demotion." As she left the conference room, our eyes met briefly. The pride that had fueled her vendetta against me had crumbled, leaving nothing but hollow defeat. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. We both knew who had truly won. My first task as VP of Strategy was rebuilding the department Sabrina had torn apart. I rehired my team with improved titles and salaries, then implemented the collaborative structure I'd always envisioned. No more siloed information, I explained during our first meeting. Knowledge is shared. Credit is given where it's due. We succeed together or not at all. The relief on everyone's faces was palpable. The fear that had permeated the office under Sabrina's leadership melted away. Within weeks, our productivity soared. 2 lost clients returned after hearing of the changes. My team worked with renewed energy and trust. Trust in each other, trust in me, trust in the future we were building. One afternoon, Ethan knocked on my office door with news. "I've been offered the director position for our New York expansion," he said, looking both proud and conflicted. "They want me to build the digital team there from the ground up." My heart sank, though I kept my expression neutral. Ethan had become more than a colleague during our shared ordeal. "That's amazing," I said sincerely. "You deserve it." He nodded but hesitated in the doorway. "I haven't accepted yet." I told them I needed time to think. I stepped into the elevator, arms full of presentation materials. Just as the doors began to close, a hand shot out to stop them. Sabrina slipped inside, eyes downcast. For 3 floors, we rode in awkward silence. She looked different now, the designer clothes and perfect makeup replaced by a simpler style. The clipboard she clutched had Records Department printed on the back. Just before the 6th floor, she hit the stop button. The elevator jolted to a halt. "I lost everything," she whispered, voice cracking. "My reputation, my career path, my family's respect, all because I was trying to be you." I stared at her, confused. "Back in marketing school," she continued, "everyone talked about Merrill Matthews, the quiet genius, the natural strategist. I spent years trying to compete with your shadow." Tears streaked her makeup. "I thought if I could just replace you, I'd finally prove myself." As she reached for the button to restart the elevator, I touched her arm. "I never wanted your war, Sabrina. You declared it alone." I paused, then added softly, "I hope you've learned from this. I hold no grudge against you." The doors opened, and we went our separate ways. Ethan accepted the New York position. His last day arrived too quickly, marked by a department lunch where everyone shared stories and well wishes. Afterward, we walked to a nearby cafe, our own private goodbye. "Parker Media won't be the same without you," I admitted as we claimed a corner table. He smiled, stirring his coffee thoughtfully. "They have you. That's what matters most." We talked about his plans for the New York office, my vision for the restructured department, professional topics that safely avoided the unspoken connection between us. As we prepared to leave, he handed me a sealed envelope. "Don't read this until tomorrow," he instructed. "After I'm gone." I nodded, slipping it into my purse. We hugged briefly in front of the cafe, the embrace lasting just a moment too long to be purely professional. "Thank you," I said simply, "for everything." He smiled one last time. "You never needed anyone to save you, Meryl. You saved yourself." I watched him walk away, the envelope weighing heavily in my purse. Whatever it contained would have to wait, as promised. That night, I dreamed of New York skyscrapers and missed opportunities. 6 months after my return, Parker Media was transformed. My team flourished under the new structure. Client retention reached an all-time high. The toxic culture Sabrina had cultivated was replaced by collaboration and recognition. New hires received an orientation that included my story, not as gossip, but as a case study in resilience and ethical leadership. "Document everything" became an unofficial motto. Our campaigns won industry awards. My keynote address at the marketing summit drew record attendance. For the first time in my career, I embraced the spotlight instead of hiding from it. One evening, scrolling through LinkedIn, I decided to share something personal. I wrote about my experience, without naming names, and ended with, "Know your worth. If they don't, walk." The post went viral overnight. Messages flooded in from people sharing similar stories, seeking advice, thanking me for speaking out. I hadn't planned to become an advocate for workplace justice, but something had shifted inside me. The woman who once accepted coffee orders in silence now had a voice that carried. And surprisingly, I was no longer afraid to use it. In the records department, Sabrina kept her head down, doing her work quietly. Sometimes I thought I saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes when we passed in the hallway. 1 year to the day after the coffee incident, I finally opened Ethan's letter. I'd kept it in my desk drawer, not quite ready to read his final words. The paper crinkled as I unfolded it, his neat handwriting filling the page. Dear Meryl, by the time you read this, I'll be settled in New York. I wanted to tell you something I couldn't say in person. When Sabrina was systematically undermining you, I watched you respond with dignity instead of desperation. When she stole your ideas, you created better ones. When she tried to humiliate you, you showed grace. You never needed to fight like them to win. That's why you did. The distance between us is temporary. New York isn't that far. Until then, Ethan. I traced my fingers over his words, smiling softly. Then I tucked the letter away and turned to the window of my corner office, gazing at the city below. The journey had changed me, hardened me in some ways, softened me in others. I was no longer the woman who apologized for taking up space. Let them underestimate me, I whispered to my reflection in the glass. That's how I win. In the distance, storm clouds gathered. But this time, I wasn't afraid of what was coming. I was ready.